working with SimCraft the past few years, the biggest thing is getting things accurate and as close as possible to real life. So when the Apex 6 was coming out, I was up in Atlanta helping with development. I remember we were testing at Road Atlanta the same week. So I'd basically go to the racetrack in the real race car in a prototype and do a couple hours, and then the next day I was off, so I'd go to SimCraft and we'd kind of dial in the motion profile as close as possible to the real thing. And not just the motion, but steering, pedals. I think a huge thing in race cars where you don't have ABS or brake assist is having a very accurate brake pedal and brake feel, and I think most simulators are missing that, and I think SimCraft put a lot of focus into it, which I think is hugely important because braking is one of the most important things in racing. To where you're doing your overtaking, it's where most of the lap time is, so the more accurate you can get that on simulation, the more accurate you're going to get it on real life, and the more you're going to learn.
That was a fantastic race. We had a great start. The car was fantastic, and I got to tell you, the simulator work on SimCraft was a perfect match for this track, and I couldn't have done it, couldn't have been as prepared as I was today without a fantastic simulator. Thank you so much, SimCraft.
It's incredible. They put me at Sebring, and I went about 300 yards down pit lane, and I could immediately tell the difference from any sim I've ever driven. The heave is incredible, and it's Z-axis simulation to kind of replicate what's happening with the spring and the shock and the tire and how they complement one another and work together. It's a whole nother level of simulation. It's a game changer.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. This is awesome, but what was really, really good was getting on my SimCraft nightly, sometimes when people are sleeping, sometimes when people are at school, people are at work, jumping on there and just getting some time, some seat time, reminding myself of what this track is like, remembering where the bumps are, remembering where the turn-ins are, remembering the apex is, working on my throttle input, my brake release. All these things are possible all the time, anytime when you got a SimCraft downstairs. Thank you for putting together such a great product. I'll be using it. I'll be getting the next one and the next one and the next one so I can get unlimited seat time. Woo!
I'm no engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I have driven a few sims in my time. You know, I was fortunate to drive the Formula E sim at Mahindra, the IndyCar sim in Indy, and they use it as a tool to set the cars up. You know, I don't know how that translates, but it feels real. Like if you change a setting on this, you can reduce understeer, you can help braking. I think that it will be an important tool to go to a different track. You know, you're pretty close to Sebring, say, and you want to try some spring changes or some damper changes, then I think it would be good to do this first to narrow down your list of changes that you want to make. And then when you get to the racetrack, you're more efficient and you can just pick those 3 or 4 different changes instead of going through the ones that might send you down the wrong road.
Yeah, you can learn a track in a day, but you have to put a tremendous amount of time and effort and laps in. And depending if you got other people there or teammates or you got a testing program or depending on what you have going on, you know, that's a big hindrance. So you need someone that can come out, know the track and be up to speed quickly. So for me, this takes that out of the equation. So now I'll be like able to hop in and go.
You could spend tens of millions of dollars on a driving simulator and you wouldn't even get what you get with a SimCraft Apex 6. I think for me, it's the most pure thing you can find for a driver. It gives you everything you want, you know, from a driving perspective, the driving experience. Whereas some of the other ones, you know, they've got tons of motion, they look fantastic, but you know, it's not giving the driver exactly what you need to feel what the race car is doing, and that's what the engineer needs. He needs that direct feedback that you're getting, and for me, the SimCraft Apex 6 is giving you exactly that.
Communication's key in motorsports, and when you're in the race car on the racetrack, you know, being able to feel this tiny little differences in a setup change or in a track condition change, and being able to relay that to an engineer is, I mean, that's the key to everything. In IndyCar right now, it's so competitive. You're looking for the smallest bit of advantage, and so if you have a tool available to you where you can have the feeling coming through the seat, through the pedals, through the steering wheel, being as close to the real car as possible, being able to pick up those tiny little bits that are going to find you that extra 100th, I mean, that's so valuable. Normally you get on a sim to learn the track and maybe learn a bit about the car, but fine-tuning anything is setup-wise is kind of it's a long shot. With this, you're getting closer and closer to that technology being there to allow you to run around test days every day of the week if you want, when you're not allowed to do any actual testing. Right. So the value of something like this is just going up and up as well.
incredible. I drove the Mercedes GT3 car at COTA. We just got back about a week or so ago from the actual race there, and really impressive to feel how similar a lot of the bumps feel, how similar a lot of the curbing feels, and I think more than anything, the tunability and the adjustability that they had built into the rig to sort of tune it to my preference and my comfort. I think all of us out there have a little bit different feel of what we're looking for, and I think the SimCraft guys have really unlocked the keys to being able to figure out how to make it work for each individual driver, and then make that interface pretty user-friendly and tunable by you at home. So pretty darn impressed here at SimCraft.
Well, I think the one thing is just I've driven so many different tracks, and I get used to trying to get up to speed quickly. So, but I also think that the feeling that I get from the Apex 6 is so lifelike that it allows me to be more comfortable, and I get the feedback I'm looking for, so I can make my adjustments that much faster. So like when I go to do a test in a new vehicle or at a new track, I'm already up to speed and I'm comfortable with where I'm at. So the biggest thing is just a feeling I get that it's so lifelike that it allows me just to keep making my adjustments as I keep going. And the longer I sit on here, the better I'm getting.
Yeah, I think when I got my first SimCraft, it was probably a bit of an unhealthy relationship that I had with it, just with how much time I was spending in it. I think we even tried to do a 24-hour of our own, not even an official one, just for fun. So it definitely went through some wear and tear, but it held up like a champ, and you know, I still spend hours on it every week, whether it's on my own, just trying to develop myself as a driver, or having some friends over and kind of teaching them the basics of what it's like to drive a real race car. Everyone kind of thinks they know what it could be like, but once you throw them in a SimCraft and they get the feeling of what it's like to be in an actual race car, I think it opens everyone's eyes, and it kind of shows of the accuracies of a SimCraft.
And there's no doubt that this is the future, you know, of testing and developing race cars and race drivers, you know, to have the ability to go, you know, practice a qualifying simulation. Here you go, you've got 3 laps on these tires, we're gonna give you 2 laps on the next set, go to your best time. From a purely driver developmental point of view, a tool like this is huge. But then to actually be able to develop setups in an era where we're getting less and less testing, you know, costs are going up and up to do that. This sort of resource, I think, is going to be incredibly valuable for, like I said, race teams of all levels.
It was really good to get total back-to-back, you know. It was coming from the real car to the sim to see on Daytona breakpoints were identical, the way the car felt, the way the car oversteered. Even I'm pretty sure you and my engineer have been talking to get the setup from the car. And it was very realistic. The tracks are getting more and more realistic too, honestly. And I don't see any reason why you couldn't use this as a direct comparison. My best advice for a driver looking to get as much seat time as possible is probably come to SimCraft and buy one of these.